Hey everyone, so today is a follow-up lesson to our live lesson on factorising, and we're going to be focusing on factorising single brackets. So looking at finding the highest common factor of different numbers and different expressions. Remember, there is a follow-up clip that you can do if you want to really test your knowledge on this, and that's to go and do clip number 168 on Hecate. And hopefully this lesson will give you lots of opportunity to pause, get on with some work yourself, and then check your answers. Okay, let's get started. So if we have a look at these expressions you've got on the screen, I want you to have a look at the expressions and think, what can you see that's common across every single one of these questions, every single one of these expressions? So hopefully what you're noticing is in every single one of these expressions, we have some component of A. A is involved in every single one of these expressions, and that's what factorising is going to allow us to do. It's going to be able to enable us to look at a question and take out any common factors, and in particular we're going to look at letters and common factors in letters today, because with numbers we get very good at finding highest common factors of numbers because it's a topic in itself at GCSE, but the letters is where sometimes we can create some confusion. So if I have a look at the first question, you've got A squared B plus A squared C. Now, I will be very always getting into the habit of, if there isn't a number in front of a term, put your own number there. So put the number, it's always the number 1. And if there isn't a power, then you can put the power of 1 there, just so you can see exactly what's going on. If I wanted to write that out in full, I would write 1 times A times A times B plus 1 times A times A times C. So that would be rewriting it, no bigger, no smaller, but just writing it out in full. And hopefully when I write it like this, you can begin to see what you've got in common in both lists. So to start with the numbers, you've got a 1 in both lists, so you're going to take a 1 out. You've also got 2 A's, so I could take 2 A's out. And beyond that, you don't have anything common because you've got a B here, but actually here you don't have a B, you have C. So you have different letters there, so you can't take anything out in common of them because they're different. So the only thing you can take out is the 1 times A, and in the first term you'll be left with a B, and in the second one you'd be left with a C. So this would simplify as 1A squared B plus C. Okay, so that's how it all works. That's why it works, because you're taking out the highest common factor, you're taking out the common multiples. But the quicker way of doing it, let's have a look at B, is you've got 5A squared plus 13A squared B. You look at your numbers, so I've got 5 and 13. Well, 5 and 13 are co-prime. In fact, 5 is prime and 13 is prime, so you know they're going to be co-prime. They can't share any factors because the factors of 5 are 1 and 5, and the factors of 13 are 1 and 13. So the only thing you can take out here in terms of numbers is a 1. And then you're going to look at this A squared and this A squared, and you take out the smallest power. So out of A squared and A squared, because they're the same, you're going to take out an A squared. And then when I open these brackets, I then do my division. So I think, okay, number divided by number, so 5 divided by 1. Well, 5 divided by 1 is still 5. And then this one, A squared, so A squared divided by A squared. A squared divided by A squared is 1. And anything divided by itself is 1. So this just stays as 5 times 1, it just stays as 5. Then I have plus. I do the same again. So 13 divided by 1, still 13. A squared divided by A squared is itself, so it stays as 1, so I don't need to write it. And then the B squared has nothing to divide it by. B squared has nothing to divide it by, so it has to, B to the power 1 has nothing to divide it by, so it goes into here. So this goes B to the power of 1. And that's my final answer, okay? So have a go at C, D, E, and F. We'll come and have a special look at E, but I want you to have a go at it. It's all about you looking for what are the numbers that you can take out and what is the smallest power of the common letters that you can take out. So pause it now and have a go at the rest of these questions, these 4 questions. Okay, welcome back. Right, let's have a quick go through some of these more simple ones and then a bit more in detail, potentially E. So with C, hopefully you spotted that, again, you can only take out a 1 because the number 2 and the number 3 are prime, so therefore they'll be co-prime. You're going to take out an A squared again, and you can't take out anything else because one term's got a B in it and one term's got a C in it. And then in your brackets, you're going to have a 2B plus 3C. So that's the answer to C. Right, let's have a look at D. So in D, if I put my number 1 at the front, here and here, and a power of 1, I'm going to take out a 1. And this time I've got an A cubed or an A squared. So I take out the smallest power. So I'm going to take out an A squared, the smallest power. And there's not a Y in both, so I can't take out any Y. So I open my bracket, and I should be doing my division now. So I'm doing 1 divided by 1, which is 1. And then this one, very important, A cubed divided by A squared. A cubed divided by A squared. So if you need to write this out, write it out. You've got A cubed divided by A squared. So you're subtracting the powers. So A to the power of 1. Okay. And then in your second term, you've got a 1. A squared divided by A squared is itself, so we don't need to write it. And you've got the Y there. So 1A squared brackets 1A to the power of 1 plus 1Y. Now E. Interesting because you've got 3 terms, but actually no harder. Okay, you look at your letters, look at your numbers, you've got a 2, a 3, and a 4. So they are co-prime with each other because there's no factor of 2, 3, and 4 that's in common except for the number 1. So the number 1 comes out. And now let's look at our letters. So to start with, you've got an A squared, an A squared, and an A squared. So we can take out A squared. Let's look at the X's. You've got an X, but there are no other X's. You've got a Y, but there are no other Y's, and a Z, there are no other Z's. So the only thing you can take out is a 1A squared. And then when you go inside the bracket, it's time to start that division. So the first thing you do, 2 divided by 1. 2 divided by 1 is 2. Then you're doing A squared divided by A squared. It's itself, so we don't write it. And X, there's nothing to divide it by, so you put the X in here. So this becomes an X. Exactly the same with the next term. You've got 3 divided by 1, which is positive 3. You've got A squared divided by A squared, so you don't write it. And you've got Y, doesn't divide by anything. And the final one, you've got 4 divided by 1, which gives you the 4. A squared divided by A squared, which is itself, so we don't write it. And then you've got the Z. So that's your answer. So method, no different, even though you've got the 3 terms. And then the final one, F. Let me just move this up. Ooh. You've got, again, let's put the 1s in front. So 1 and 1, so hopefully you can see that a 1's going to be taken out. Oh, sorry. Let's look at anything else they've got in common. Well, you've got an A squared and an A cubed. So A squared and A cubed, we take out the smallest. So we're going to take out the A squared. And then you've got a B squared and a C squared. Different letters, can't take them out. So now let's open our bracket and start the division. So we start the division with 1 divided by 1, which is 1. A squared divided by A squared, which we don't need to write. And B squared, there's no B to divide it by, so the B squared stays there. Plus 1. A cubed divided by A squared. So here, A cubed divided by A squared. Again, if you need to write it out, that's fine. A cubed divided by A squared. A to the power of 1 because we're subtracting the powers. And then you've got your C squared that stays there. So there are your answers. Moving on, let's have a look at some ones where now we're going to introduce numbers into it as well. So now we're looking at being able to take out highest common factors of numbers as well. So in this first one, we've got 12 and 36. So you've got to find the highest common factor of the numbers 12 and 36. So I put the power of 1 here. We can either do this in our head, or the easiest way is to list out the factors. Remember, being able to list out the factors is really important because you're going to need this in so many different methods. So being able to do this really quickly. So there's 12. Let's have a look at 36. 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 5 doesn't go, 6 and 6. Being able to do that really quickly is a really important skill in doing well in so much maths, so much of your maths. So keep practicing it. I would say don't leave it to your head. Do it properly on the page. So these are my factors for 12. These are my factors for 36. There are lots of different numbers you could pick, but the biggest number out of them is the 6. So it's the 6 you're going to take out. So in this one, 6, and they don't share any letters. You've got an x to the power 1 here, but there's no x there. So then the pair that goes with 6, we were doing 12 divided by 6, which is 2x. And then here, 36 divided by 6, 36 divided by 6, minus 6, okay? Oh, actually, that then highlights that I haven't done that correctly, have I? Because I haven't taken out the biggest number in that list. 12 is the biggest number in this list. 12 is the number that I should pick. So let me rub that out. And I'll tell you how I spotted that in a minute. So when I rub that out, so I should be picking 12. So 12 should come out like this, 12. And then I'm doing 12 divided by 12, which is 1x, minus 36 divided by 12, which is 3. Okay, and that's it fully factorized. And I'll tell you why I knew that I hadn't got that right. Because when you look at the numbers that you're left inside the brackets, those numbers should be co-prime. They should not share any factors except the factor of 1. So these numbers, what you've got left in the brackets, should always be co-prime if you factorize it correctly. And what I mean by co-prime is if you look at those numbers, there shouldn't be any factors in common. Should be any factors in common. Okay, let's look at B. So if you're feeling really confident on that, you want to just crack on and have a go at these 3 questions, you can absolutely do that. Or if you wanted to see one more example, you can watch again, watch this one. So with B, I've got 12 and 4, so I'm going to quickly write the factors of 12. 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and I can stop at 4 because 4 is on my list. And the factors of 4 are nice and easy, 1 and 4, 2 and 2, so I've got repeat, so that's the end of my list. So I'm now looking for the biggest number that appears in both lists, so I'm going to be really, really careful here. Definitely 4 this time, so 4 is the highest number in both those lists, which means that when I factorize this, if I put the power of 1 here, the number that's going to come out is definitely a 4. And then I look at my x terms. So this time I've got an x squared and an x to the power of 1. So I have got an x in both terms, which means I'm going to definitely be able to factorize it out somehow. So I'm going to take the smallest power out of x squared and x to the power of 1. So I should take out an x to the power of 1. And if I open my brackets, I'm now going to do my division. So I'm doing 12 divided by 4. So 12 divided by 4. So that gives me a 3. And then I'm doing x squared divided by x. So that's just x to the power of 1 minus, and then here I've got 4 divided by 4. So that's a 1. And I've got x to the power of 1 divided by x to the power of 1. So that's your final answer. And like we were saying in the live lesson, you don't have to write the powers of 1. Once you're finished, you could just write it like that without the powers of 1 here and here. So you don't have to write those in the final answer, but you can. So there's the final answer. Okay, so there's 2 more questions for you to have a go at. So make sure that you've had a go at those 2. Pause the video, have a go in your own time. Press play when you're ready to check the answers. Okay, welcome back. So yeah, let's have a look at these last 2 questions. So I'm going to rub out this. We've got a little bit of space. And I'm going to move this up. So again, we've got a bit of space. So this first one is factorising 4x plus 8xyz. So I'm going to take the factors of 4, which are nice and easy, 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. And I stop because 2's on both sides. And 8, 1 and 8, 2 and 4, 3 doesn't go, and 4 is already on my list, so I can stop. And I'm looking for the common, which is 4. Okay, there's no other higher. So I know there's going to be the number 4 on the outside. Now let's look at the letters. Well, I'm going to put some powers of 1 here, so I can definitely see. So here I've got x to the power of 1 and x to the power of 1. So I can definitely take out an x to the power of 1. Then I've got these guys, the y and the z, but they don't appear in the first term, so there's no way I'm going to be able to take them out. So the only thing I can take out is 4x to the power of 1. So let's start with dividing. 4 divided by 4 is 1. and then x to the power of 1 divided by x to the power of 1, I don't need to write, plus 8 divided by 4 is 2, and you've got x to the power of 1 divided by x to the power of 1, you don't need to write, but these guys, y to the power of 1 and z to the power of 1, you do. So there's your final answer, 4x brackets 1 plus 2yz. Okay, and I think we talked about this before, but your letters could change order, so you could also write that as 4x brackets 1 plus 2zy. Both of those would be correct. Okay, it doesn't matter what order you write it. Okay, final one. So we've got 8 and 12, so factors of 8. I already had them here, but 1 and 8, 2 and 4, 3 doesn't go, 4 is already on my list, and 12, 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and 4 is already on my list. So hopefully here we can spot that the highest number on both lists, again, is this 4. So I know 4 is going to come out, so here's the 4. Right now, let's look at our x terms. Well, I've got x cubed and x to the power 5. X cubed and x to the power 5. So I'm going to take out the smallest power, so I should take out an x cubed. Let's look at what I'd have left inside. Well, I'm going to do the division. So it's 8 divided by 4. 8 divided by 4 is 2. So this should become 2. And then I've got x cubed divided by x cubed. So x cubed divided by x cubed is just itself, so you don't need to write it. And you can write minus, you're doing 12 divided by 4, which should give you 3. And then this one, important one, x to the 5 divided by x cubed. Again, you can write that out if you need to. X to the 5 divided by x cubed. You're going to subtract the powers, we should get x squared. Okay, and there's your final answer. So again, just like we did the first question, I look at these two numbers, 2 and 3. Are they co-prime? Are there any numbers, are there any factors that both those numbers share? No, so I know I've factorised it fully. Okay, so hopefully that's been some good practice of factorising, especially when we're looking at those numbers. I've got a set of questions for you to have a go at here. So again, you're going to pause your video, you're going to have a go. Just remember, if there isn't a number in front of a letter, add it please. If there isn't a power, add it please, so you're very clear. Give yourself some time to have a go at these questions, and then when you're ready, click play and we can go through the answers. Okay, welcome back. So hopefully you had a go at these questions. I'm going to show you the answer in a minute, but I'm just going to pick out a couple to have a go at. So part A, we should have had 1 taken out and an x to the power of 1 taken out, which left you with 1x minus 5. And let's do this last one here. You've got 5 and 20. Well, the factors of 5 is primes, which is 1 and 5. 20, the factors of 20 are 1 and 20, 2 and 10. 3 doesn't go, and 4 goes 5 times. 5's on my list. So the biggest number in both those lists is 5 and 5. So you know you're taking out a 5. You can take out an x, because there's the power of 1, power 1. And you can also take out a y. So here I take out y to the power of 1. And I open my brackets and I do my division. So I've got 5 divided by 5, which gives me 1. And then I've got, let's do x to the power of 1 divided by x to the power of 1. I don't write it. Y to the power of 1, because that's this guy here. Y to the power of 1 divided by y to the power of 1. I don't write it. So the only thing I'd have left there is a z. Plus 20 divided by 5, which is 4. U, and then x to the power of 1 here divided by x to the power of 1. I don't write it. Y to the power of 1 divided by y to the power of 1. I don't write it. So the final answer just looks like this. Okay, so hopefully that gives you some help. If there's any particular ones there that you're really confused about, just drop me an email and I'll send you a little video of how to answer it. But here are the overarching questions. So you can check. And again, remember that you might have written it. You might have written it slightly differently with ones in. So, for example, the answer to the first question here, you might have written as 1x brackets 1x minus 5, and that's absolutely fine. Like this one as well, you might have written as 3x 1x plus 4, like that. Okay. So I hope that made sense. And that's today's lesson. So that's a summary of kind of simplifying using factorising and factorising with one bracket. So now go and have a go at that Heckley clip 168. Make sure you do really well on that homework so that you're ready to go and this topic is done, and we can move on tomorrow to factorising quadratics with double brackets. Well done, everyone. Bye-bye.